Hello and welcome to another episode of Wednesday Waffle. I'm your host, the ever excitable Adam, and yeah, I'm not feeling too good. I've actually had the flu since the weekend, so starting a new job this week, so it's never good to start a new job with a flu. And due to busyness, I wasn't able to actually do a Wednesday Waffle last week. So yeah, this one is going to be talking about the week that was, the week of Adam. But it's sick edition because I'm not feeling too good. So I might cut this off if I start coughing or, choking to death, or just generally feeling rough. But I'll try to rattle through all this stuff. Firstly, thanks everyone who's been tuning into these Wednesday Waffles. Going forward, they're probably going to be happening around this time rather than lunchtime, just because I like doing them live. If people are about, they can talk to me. It's always quite nice to interact with you guys. But yeah, my lunchtimes now with my new work, it just isn't going to work. So yeah, probably around this time or maybe a bit later on Wednesday evening, we shall see. What have I been doing this since you last spoke to me? So, well, not that you spoke to me, but I've been loads. I had a whole week, the week of Adam, which was basically me filming a ton of content for the channel, which basically means I can sit down now and just edit these things together, and yeah, not really get anything else to the table for a little bit, which is pretty good in some ways, because it means I can just enjoy playing board games rather than having to film content for. I enjoy filming content for the channel and showing you guys these really cool games, and I'm really desperate to actually get a couple of these games back to the table, but I've got a huge backlog of editing now that I need to sit down and actually get through. So yeah, up to Christmas, it's going to be me editing that. However, saying that, every year we've the past couple of years, Will has very nicely been doing the escape room advent calendars. However, this year he's not going to be able to do that. So instead of advent calendar for escape rooms, we're going to be having a Mantic board game advent calendar turning up. So this is basically a advent calendar with board game pieces and tokens and stuff in there. I've never had one of these before, so I'm going to be interested to see how it all kind of works out. So yeah, you can expect in December you're going to be seeing me opening up those. And then there'll probably be a video of the gameplay of the game, and we'll see if it's any good and do a review. So next year you can pick up your own copy of it from Mantic or not, depending on how the review goes, I guess. So painting wise, I've not really done much painting. The last thing I painted was I just finished off some Chronicles of Drunagor miniatures from the Ruin of Lucanor expansion. Because I realised as I was filming the Chronicles of Drunagor that I was actually getting to a point where I could go on this side mission, this side quest. So I was like, well, I need to paint these miniatures up first. So I basically just blasted these miniatures out, finished those off. So yeah, Chronicles of Drunagor, Ruins of Lucanor, it's all painted now, and filmed. So painting wise, I've just got the Mass Effect board game turn up, so there's going to be some painting there. There's only 6 minis to paint and the rest is standees, and this is something I'm seeing a lot of these days, where they're having these board games coming out and there's 2 additions to it sometimes, or in this case this is the 1 edition, where you have some miniatures for the heroes and standees for all the bad guys. And that works fine. I'm happy with that because it doesn't price you out of playing a game. I mentioned about games which have 2 versions. The Stalker board game, for instance, which is something I'm trying to avoid picking up because it looks great but it's expensive. That has got 2 editions. It's got like a standard pledge and a deluxe pledge, and the deluxe pledge basically has a box of miniatures for all the enemies in it. The standard pledge just has standees for all of the enemies. So yeah, so tempting to pick one of those up because there's a decent price difference between the 2, obviously, because you're not having to worry about plastic miniatures really. You're just doing little standees and stuff. But yes, so Mass Effect, that's going to be painted up so I can get that to the table fairly quickly. And I realised during my playthrough of Maladum that actually I needed to paint up all the other characters in there. So with Maladum you get I think there's there's 7 heroes in the Maladum kind of set. Although I got the Kickstarter version, so there's like a baggie full of other miniatures in there. But the base game is going to be coming with 7 hero miniatures. And I was like, well, I only need to paint up the ones I'm playing with, right? Wrong, Adam, because the other miniatures that you're not using will come into the dungeon as NPCs. So you can imagine my fear as I sat down to actually play this game when I realised I'd fucked up. Yeah, so they are actually next on my thing to paint because the Maladum video has gone down really well, and the community around Maladum has been really welcoming and stuff. So it was a blast to play and film. So I'm very excited about getting back to Maladum. So they're probably the next thing I'll paint. Then it's going to be the Mass Effect miniatures. For 2 reasons. 1, so I can play the game and film it for you guys, and 2, because I absolutely love Mass Effect, and it's lovely having some miniatures that represent the characters that I grew fond of during my gameplay of those 3 video games. We don't mention anything external to those, just those 3 are the best. Okay, so I've written down everything that happened in the week that was, and like I say, I am feeling pretty rough at the moment, which is why this is the sick edition. So I may suddenly disappear in a feverish dream, I guess. Okay, so I filmed this load of stuff, loads of things, and out of all the games I had to film that week, I'd kind of written out a little schedule of what I was going to film and when, and I planned to kind of get a bit more in, but this guy really messed up on some of the rules for Chronicles of Drenagor. So when I started filming, the first thing I wanted to play was Chronicles of Drenagor because I read the rulebook, I played the tutorial a couple of times. I was like, this is really cool mechanics. I'm really enjoying this. And I was like, I need to get this filmed straight away because there's so much content for this. I want to get this done. So I was really keen on getting involved in it. However, I fucked up. There is a rule with Chronicles of Drenagor where basically it's an action point kind of allocation system. So you have these like little kind of action cubes, different colors, depending on what kind of skills you're using. And on your turn, you're going to move, and then you can spend 2 of those cubes on 2 of your skills which don't already have cubes on. So you do that until there's a point where you place your last cube, or you decide you're just going to get all your cubes back. And when you do that, whether it's unwittingly or you willingly, then you basically have to add a black curse cube to the character sheet and block off one of those skills. Now, in my first 2, I think, videos that I did didn't actually realize that there is a way to actually get rid of those curse cubes. So I was playing the first 2 missions of that, where I basically screwed myself over with having a lack of things I could do. And also, if you ever place a 6th curse cube, then your character is out. So yes, I started filming Chronicles of Drenagor, and that is a rule I picked up later, and it was only in like the 3rd mission or something, and I'd already filmed quite a lot of this already and had to restart a lot of filming because I'd screwed up some other rules. And I don't know whether that's the rulebook's fault or it's my fault for just kind of jumping in, but when I film stuff for the channel, I like to try and make it as accurate to the rules as possible, which is why I always appreciate rules corrections in the comments below. But yeah, I started filming Chronicles of Drenagor and I screwed up, so I had to reset and then refilm. And I did that several times. So my first couple of days, I was expecting to blast through a lot more content, but I actually only got 3 videos, I think, for Chronicles of Drenagor out in those 3 days. But what a game, guys. Chronicles of Drenagor is probably going to be my game of the year. It's just been such a fun dungeon crawler and just a really, really interesting kind of narrative and gameplay mechanics that all kind of work well with each other. And I've mentioned Chronicles of Drenagor previously on these things, so I won't go into too much detail about what I absolutely love and what I absolutely don't like about the game. Suffice to say, it was so nice getting to the table and actually going, man, I was right, this game is fantastic. This is everything I thought it would be. So I filmed the Chronicles of Drenagor and the first 3 chapters. And when you get to chapter 3, once you finished it, in the actual kind of narrative of that chapter, they mention someone called Admiral Lucanor. And it's just kind of mentioned, and you're like, okay, we don't know who this guy is. But at the end of the chapter, it says, well, if you have the Rune of Lucanor expansion, you can actually now go and do the side quest of the Rune of Lucanor. Or you can just carry on with the main campaign. So it's pretty clever from a business perspective, because if you were a completionist and you get to that 3rd chapter, you're like, oh my god, I don't have that expansion. you're going to want to get that expansion so you can get the whole story. So I basically got to the end of chapter 3 and I was like, right, I'm going to finish painting up these Rune of Lucanor guys. So I have filmed the first 3 chapters of Chronicles of Draenor. Then I filmed the next, the only 2 chapters you get in the Rune of Lucanor expansion. So there'll be a review for that once that actually goes live, the actual footage of that. But yeah, suffice to say, I really thought it was a very smart delivery for an expansion. It doesn't, you don't need it to play the main game, but it's a really cool little side quest. And if you ever play role-playing games on like computer role-playing games, there is always so many side quests to go down, and it really felt like you were. They know their target audience and they know this kind of game. People want to go off and do side quests, and it was just really well done. So yeah, top marks for the Rune of Lucanor. So after that, I wanted to try out Maladum. So Maladum is a really fun skirmish game. I say skirmish because the guys behind Maladum, they wanted to make they wanted to like Warhammer, and they didn't like Warhammer. They got on the table and they're like, oh, the narrative isn't quite there. It's just rolling loads of dice, and although they enjoy the narrative, the gameplay didn't really like sing to them. So what they did is they basically they were like, okay, well, maybe we could make our own game. And then Kill Team came out and they were like, oh, maybe this is the game for us. And it was closer, but it wasn't quite. So what they did, they made their own tabletop skirmish game, but a cooperative kind of campaign kind of thing in there. Start off, it was competitive. It's called Core Space. You're in space, and you're playing as these rival traders, and you're going through like an 8 mission narrative campaign against these kind of like evil robots who are kind of taken over. So you're kind of going up against them, and it's a really fun game, but it's a hard game, and it's also hard for people to understand why you wouldn't just be working together. The next game they brought out was Firstborn, set in the same universe, and this time it's fully cooperative, and you can have other traders in there, but you're on the same crew, you're going through a narrative campaign, and you're basically trying to like defeat these Firstborn. So fast forward to Maladum. Maladum is a fantasy-themed one. However, it's actually set after Maladum, like hundreds of years later. So you're going to find all these sci-fi relics as you're going around the dungeons. So I set up a game of Maladum. Now, when I filmed Core Space, there's a video on the channel called Core Space Hull Breach. If you've not seen it, check it out. It's a really fun mission that they actually just put online for Core Space. I've not filmed any of the Core Space content. I did start, but the lighting wasn't right, and I wasn't quite sure how to film it properly, which I'll get onto with Maladum in a second. So I lost my train of thought because I'm not feeling very well. So let's get to that. So with Maladum, I was wondering how I'm going to film this. So what I did, because to give you an idea, it has 3D terrain in it. So you have all these kind of walls and corridors and things like that around, and all this 3D furniture and all these traps and stuff around the board, and doors. The doors are actually open when you push into them, which is pretty cool. So you've got all these things on there, and you basically trying to film that is really tricky because as you move your characters around, you've got your single camera, and they'll go behind a wall, and then the camera can't see it. So for Core Space, I was having to pick the camera up, move around to a different angle, and film from that angle. It's quite labour intensive. And some people film these kind of tabletop skirmish games from above. I personally don't understand that, because for me, if you spend the time to paint some miniatures, make them look absolutely lovely, and you have such beautiful terrain, why are you filming it from above? Because all you see are lines of where the cardboard terrain is and circles of your characters. What's the point? Whereas my approach is basically to film it from a kind of angle, so you can see the heroes moving along the corridors, fighting all the monsters, see the paint jobs that I've done, which are okay or great, depending on what you think. And and overall, it's just a really fun experience. So when it came to Maladum, I was like, how am I going to film this? Because I don't want to be going around the table, moving the camera around. So I made a Lazy Susan. I actually have this little Lazy Susan, but it's quite small. And you play Maladum on a neoprene mat, so already you can't just put that over there, it's not going to work. Because I thought if I had a Lazy Susan, I could put it on there, and I could spin it around, and then I could have the camera in one place, maybe move it now and again, but generally, just one camera angle will get everything. So, Lazy Susan, I was like, I need something to go on top of that. So I found a big chopping board, put the chopping board down, but the neoprene mat was still a bit too big for it. So I got the board from Stifling Dark, laid that down, and the neoprene mat went on perfectly. I then spent 20 minutes setting up the actual level itself, and the level was of Coin and Glory, which is basically just a mission you do before you start a narrative campaign. So it's just a mission in there so that you can go in and you can basically get all the gear you need, so your heroes aren't starting out with like crap equipment. And my actual gameplay video for that is up and it's live, and it's gone down really well. It was really fun to film, and I made quite a few mistakes. But the whole point of me doing that very first one before just filming several videos was so that I could actually, I could learn it as I play, and also get feedback from the community for things I've missed. Because lots of my videos, especially when I'm going from one game to another, I can miss stuff. So having people actually say, Adam, you know, at 4027, you couldn't have gone through this door, or these, all the enemies actually roll additional dice. All that stuff is really helpful. So yeah, thank you to anyone who actually inputted on that Maladum video. I really appreciate that, and I will be filming more Maladum. It's probably going to be one of the next things that hits the table, because I've really enjoyed it, and the rules are fairly fresh in my mind. So I think it's good to go there sooner rather than later. Now, I am planning on actually having some other people join me for it, but one person put in the comments, no, nobody else, just you, which, that made me feel good about myself. Here we go. Okay, so that was Maladum. Next thing we got out was the beautiful League of Dungeoneers, which is a fever dream of a guy who basically made a Dungeons & Dragons in tabletop form. He has done such a fantastic job at making a dungeon crawler where you've got so much freedom in it. There's several quests you can go around, like campaigns you can go on and stuff like that, but generally you are going through 3 different stages. You're doing overworld travel where you're moving around like a hex crawl map, going through events and having skirmishes with bandits and stuff. Then you're doing the settlement phase where you go to a settlement and you buy stuff, you improve your character, you find new quests, things like that. And then you do the actual dungeon crawling itself, where you are laying out tiles, going through a dungeon, and being a general badass. The thing with this game, with League of Dungeoneers, is there's so many rules. There are so many rules in this game, guys. It is crazy. It's one of those games that I kind of need someone with me to play it, because like when I play Shadows of Brimstone, I can forget stuff because I'm so focused on a particular rule set, and then a new monster comes out and that changes everything. And it's the first time I'd really played League of Dungeoneers. So I filmed the very first mission, which was like a kind of little skirmish, and then I skipped straight to the actual dungeon crawl, and Alex actually joined me for it. So Alex, who's you would have seen on the review for Captain's Log, he joined me for that. So he kind of came in expecting us doing one thing, and I was like, yeah, actually we're doing an adventure. So we had a blast playing it. It was so much fun. And what I loved about it is we actually added our own little kind of twist to things. So, there happened to be like we went in a room, there's coffins in there, and it's under a town hall. We're like, why is this here? So he came with a narrative as to why that was there. And it was just really fun and thematic, and a fantastic dungeon crawl. I really enjoyed it. Like I say, lots and lots of rules. So I probably made a ton of mistakes in it, but I had fun, and I'm going to go back to it. One thing I will say though, sometimes you play a game and it reminds you of another game that you really enjoy, and then you're like, I want to go back and play that game. With League of Dungeoneers, that was Folklore the Affliction, which is probably still one of my favorite games. I've never got past, I filmed some for the channel, and then the footage, there's a few video series that I started doing on the channel, and then the footage got corrupted. And unfortunately, with Folklore the Affliction, I couldn't rewind back to find out where my characters, what they were, because I'd already gone so far forward. I'd filmed like 3 more videos, and it was very hard to reset. So unfortunately, my Folklore the Affliction only really covers the very first kind of chapter. And I've never really actually got through further than that in the game, but I've really enjoyed it every time I played it. And that's a similar kind of thing where you've got an overworld hex crawl. You've got, but the theme is very much like kind of Eastern Germany kind of folklore and stuff, like vampires and lycanthropy and like witches and all this stuff. And it's a really thematic and fun game. I absolutely love Folklore the Affliction. And I'm pretty certain that the people who make it no longer exist. But if you can pick yourself up a copy of Folklore the Affliction, I highly recommend it. It's a great game. But yeah, I played League of Dungeoneers and I was like, I've enjoyed this, but I would like to play Folklore the Affliction now. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do that now. No, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, anyway, League of Engineers, I really enjoy it. Looking forward to getting back to the table. And what was interesting, I played with Alex, and I wasn't sure how he would find it. But we finished it, and he was like, "Yeah, let's keep playing." But we couldn't because we had more stuff to do. So it was nice that his whole interpretation of it was he enjoyed it so much he wanted to play again. Now, with League of Engineers, before I move on to the next thing, you can use. It's kind of miniature agnostic. You can use any miniatures you got. You can use any standees you got. But whenever I do a game, I like to use what comes with it. So for the most part, I used standees that actually came with a game. However, there was one standee that didn't come with a game, which I felt was 100%. I have to use this. So if you watch the League of Engineers video when that's up, you'll see what standee I used. And if you can let me know which game that's from, you get 10 points. Okay, so that was League of Engineers. Which brings us on to Captain's Log. So Alex was over mainly to play Captain's Log with me because Captain's Log is a really fun sandbox kind of, I want to say pirate game, but you're not really a pirate, but you can be a pirate. It's said you're in the age of sail, and you are basically, you have your own little boat, and you're going around, and as a sandbox, you're just trying to do whatever you want to do to get fame points. And I like the fact it's called fame points. You're trying to become the most famous kind of privateer rather than, you know, the most victory points, which is always just completely destroys the whole theme and immersion for a game. Oh, I need to get 10 victory points. I'm a pirate, but, you know, fame points makes sense. Glory would have been good as well, but fame is fine. What we found with Captain's Log, this is such a fantastic game. Absolutely love this. I'm a big fan of Xia Legends of a Drift System, or however you pronounce that. That is very similar kind of game. This time around, it's set in the Age of Sail. You're shooting cannons at each other. You are, you know, you're kind of like trading goods. There's like a market where when you put goods in, it kind of affects the worldwide economy. It's just well thought out. And we played the standard game. The advanced game is something Alex and I are going to get to next because, man alive, it was just so much fun. More folklore, yes. I mean, hopefully I could bring some more folklore to the channel because I don't feel it gets represented enough. It's one of those games that people might have heard of but not seen. But yeah, it's close to my heart. Unfortunately, at the point I am here, trying to fit it into a schedule is very tricky because of all the other games I've got lined up to play. Like, for instance, Chronicles of Drunagor, League of Dungeoneers, Maladum. So I've got quite a few of these games on the kind of cards. But I think something I can do going forward is maybe start some of these games with another person. So, for instance, Undaunted 2200, which is a series I'm doing on the channel, I've chosen one of my friends, Jack, to join me on that. So I can still film all the solo stuff I'm doing, but every other week, we can get together and we can just film 2 episodes of that, and then there's some more content for the channel. There's some more really fun games, and it's not something that, you know, I'm going to be thinking too hard about, if that makes sense. So maybe Folklore of the Fiction is something I could do. I could give that to somebody to kind of learn that and then go around film some more of that stuff. But with that, you really need to have 3 people. You can play it solo, but 3 people is probably the best kind of number. So maybe I'll find 2 interesting people to join me on a Folklore of the Affliction thing, and we'll clock the entire campaign. So maybe 2025 we'll do that. That might be fun. I do enjoy that game. It's so much fun. So Captain's Log, they've got a Kickstarter, well, a game founder at the moment, and they basically were like, can you please do some coverage for this? And I was like, 100%, because it's such a fun game. So I'm currently editing together the full gameplay video, which was 2 hours long, but there's lots of rules checkings and ums and ahs. So yeah, it'll probably be a lot shorter, probably an hour and a half I might be able to get down to if I'm lucky. So that's currently there at the moment, so if you bear with me over the next couple of weeks, you'll see a Captain's Log full gameplay video with a lot of corrections coming up here and there, because as I'm doing the video editing, I'm actually messaging the creator and saying, oh, we had this instance happen, what actually happens in this instance? Because for the most part, the rulebook was pretty straightforward. However, it was when there were instances that came up that weren't directly referenced in the rulebook that, you know, then there's a bit of grey area and you have to kind of find a solution to it. We found a couple of instances where that did happen. But yes, Captain's Log, great. Such a fun game. So Alex and I really enjoyed that. And that was another one. Out of the 2 games I played with Alex that day, I really thought Captain's Log would be the one he'd really struggle with and not want to get back to. But he was like, oh no, I'd definitely play it again. And whilst I was editing this, the video for Captain's Log, I was like, man, I just want to get this back to the table. This is just so much fun. It's fantastic because you have like non-playing characters that spawn on the board, and you can interact with them. So there's kind of merchant vessels who they have to go from one port to another port, and every time they go to a port they get money on them, and they're just racking up this money going left and right, not bothering anybody. However, you can go there and rob them. If you sink the ship, you get all the money. Fantastic. And if you play the advanced game, you actually have different relationships between the different nations. So if you have a Spanish treasure vessel going left and right, and there's a kind of attacking Dutch vessel come out, and they're at war with each other, then that attacking Dutch vessel is not going to just move around and annoy the players. It's going to actually actively go after the treasure ships. It's just a really fun system because when we played it, we had a pirate come out. He was after me. Then a Dutch ship came out, and the Dutch were at war with the pirates because the pirates are at war with everyone. So this Dutch ship just started going straight for it. And at some point, Alex really pissed off the French. So then the French, all their ships started coming out, and all of them went for Alex. It was really fun. So yeah, highly recommend Captain's Log. We did a review on it, and it's completely non-biased. All our reviews, I'm very honest with how we like them. I am the ever excitable Adam, so I do enjoy board games, and I do see a lot of potential in games. The only negative I'd say about this really was some of the rules were a little harder to understand, but it's one of those games that once you played it a couple of times, you get a much better understanding of how it plays. So that's Captain's Log. Dungeons of Doria. So Dungeons of Doria, I have had this for a while. I've played several games of it, and I've enjoyed every game I've played of it, except when I haven't. Dungeons of Doria is a fantastic dungeon crawler. However, you have these instances where it's kind of like this double-edged sword with a variety of monsters in it. So you have a deck of cards, absolutely huge deck of cards for the monsters in the game. You draw a card when you're spawning a monster, and it'll either have one or two things. It'll have a monster on there, fantastic, or a modifier. And the modifier will basically make the next monster you draw that much more powerful. So it could make that monster immune to fire. It could make that monster actually breathe fire. It could make that monster super fast or have regenerative abilities. And for the most part, it's really fun. You're going through these, you find these monsters, you never know what you're going to expect to find. And then all of a sudden, it's not fun when you get absolutely mullered by these like super powered up monsters who've got a dozen modifiers on them. But yeah, I've had it for ages. I've tried to film it a couple of times on the channel, but I need to have at least 3 people to play it. It's one you can solo it, but for the balance of the game, 3 characters in Dungeons & Doria is the kind of sweet point you need to get. So just like Folklore of Affliction, you need 3 for that. It's the same with this one. Although Folklore you can do with 2, but 3 works best just because of how you pass the night and day kind of marker. But yeah, Dungeons & Doria, the review for that is up. If you haven't checked that out, go check it out. There's a Game Found campaign coming up. My 2 negatives were the fact that there is, like so much randomness and swinginess with those modifier cards, and the other thing being the tile art. The tile art they have addressed in the next edition. It looks so good. The tile art is lovely. So yeah, so if you are interested in Dungeons & Doria, definitely check it out. There's so many positives because it's got so much content. Like a lot of these dungeon crawlers, like League of Dungeoneers, you could just get that system and that is what you're getting. You're buying a system. You buy yourself League of Dungeoneers, you're not going to need to get another system. You get yourself Dungeons & Doria, you could be happy with that system for a long time. Shadows of Brimstone, take a drink if you watch the channel. Because whenever I mention Shadows of Brimstone, which is every single video, you got to have a drink. Yeah, Shadows of Brimstone. The same is a system. You just have that, and that's all you never need. And with that particular game, there's so many expansions. You could just have that game, and that's you set for life. You don't want to just have one game, like guys. Life's too short. So that's Dungeons & Doria. It's I think it might already be on Game Found, or it's on Game Found soon. So definitely check that out if you're interested in dungeon crawlers. So let's talk about some party games. Will, who has been on the channel for a while, and Alex were over at my house on a Saturday, and we played a bunch of party games, and it was so much fun. We played Would Like to Meet to begin with, which is a dating kind of game. So it's a classified ad game, shall I say, where it's kind of like Cards Against Humanity, which I absolutely despise, because you're only as good as the cards you have, and Would Like to Meet kind of suffered a little bit from this. You're only good as the cards you have. What you basically have is you've got a hand of like 5 cards, and you're going to place these 5 descriptive words down, and then then the other players will put 3 more descriptive words from their hand down to kind of complete the kind of classified ad. So you're trying to basically make a classified ad, and the first 3 kind of words will be who's trying to find somebody. So it'll be horny loner accountant, and then would like to meet, and then the other people will reveal their cards, and one will be like nymphomaniac, gypsy, saleswoman, or another 3 things. I'm not feeling very well, so my creative juices for this is not fantastic. But yes, it's a fun party game. It's very rude, and some very good laughs come out of that. You're only as good as the cards you have, though, like Cards Against Humanity, but there's so many cards in there, and it's definitely well worth a punt. It's a very fun game. So yeah, that's going to be edited on the channel at some point. I think I gave that off to Will to edit, so it'll be on at some point. I'll find out when. But yeah, the next couple of weeks, because ideally party games, we want to get those up before Christmas, so you guys can have a look at these and go, oh, that might be a fun thing to do. And I definitely will do a Wednesday Waffle where I talk about my 10 favourite kind of game, like party games for Christmas, maybe something like that. So I'll be doing a buyer's guide for Christmas, and I'll also be doing I'm really looking forward to my last Waffle of the year, which is going to be me talking about everything I played this year. And we're going to do some awards this year on Die Rollin as well, where I say the best game of 2024 and things like that. So you've got that to look forward to. Or dread if you don't enjoy the channel, you're just watching this out of pure morbid curiosity. So yeah, Would Like to Make was fun. Grim Inc. is the next game I'd like to talk about, and this was superb. It was easily the funnest game, or most fun game we played. In it, you are working for Grim Reaper Industries, and you basically have to come up with a sales pitch for how to kill somebody. So what will happen is one person in the round will be the supervisor. They get line manager. They get a little line manager kind of card they put in front of them, and they will then basically draw out a soul. So it could be a nun, and then they'll, or it could be a caveman, or it could be a plethora of different things. There's so many cards in there. And then they get setting out, and it could be a laundrette, it could be Mars, it could be the International Space Station, or some humorous things. So you've got soul, you've got setting, and then you are each given 1 card, which is an implement. And you're not allowed to look at it until the 1-minute timer starts. When the 1-minute timer starts, you look at your card, and that's the implement you have to kill that person with. So you have to come up with an inventive way to pitch how this implement is going to kill that person. One of the cards we had was Midlife Crisis. One of them was a board game of Monopoly. Loads of different silly kind of suggestions on there. One was Space Cow. So once you've had a minute to think about it, the line manager picks somebody, starts the minute timer again, and that person has a minute to describe how they propose this person will die using this implement. And it was so much fun. You play it until someone's got 3 recognition cards, so whoever wins around gets a recognition card, and there's some bonuses with bonuses can be had as well. You can roll dice as the line manager, and if you get a skull, you get a message from the top with basically a deck of cards. You pick a card up, it's either a bonus for more recognition for someone, or it can be like disciplinary action for somebody. Yeah, Grim Inc. Get it, buy it. If you want a fun party game, Grim Inc. is the game for you. It's not going to be for everyone, but it's definitely for some people who like to be inventive, like to be creative. It's definitely much better than those kind of games where, like Cards Against Humanity, where you're only as good as the cards you have. In this case, you'll have an implement, and you're only as good as your imagination, because the implement itself. So I had somebody, an FBI guy, who was at Area 51, and the thing I had was a kidney stone, and I had to figure out how he would die with a kidney stone. So what I ended up doing was basically in that minute describing how he passed. It wasn't even him, it was somebody else had a kidney stone. They passed in the toilet, and the toilets were all blocked up, so the pipes burst above the FBI guy's head, and he was drowned in shit, and that's how he died. So you don't have to say, oh, he choked on, he was trying to pass a kidney stone and he dies, or he choked on a kidney stone that somebody had passed. I don't know. You could use any kind of imaginative way, and basically the person, the line manager, awards it for the funniest or most creative kind of thing. Now you can have a bit of metagaming there. If they don't want somebody to win, they'll be like, well, I'm not gonna, do that. But what's the point of playing games like that? But yeah, I would say if you're looking for a fun game to play with friends, Grim Inc. is fantastic, and it's probably going to win my party game of the year. If I'm honest, it's so much fun. Okay, so next is Psycho Killer. We played Psycho Killer. We played it before. We've played 2 expansions for this one. We played the Purge version, and we played the Nightmare on Elm Street. So with Psycho Killer, the base game, if you're not aware of it, what happens is you have one deck of cards that you shuffle up and you put into 2 different decks, meaning left and right. And you're all people who have been chased by a Psycho Killer, and on your turn, you get to either play a card from your hand, which you don't start with any, or you can go left or you can go right. You draw the top card from the deck and you add that to your hand, or you play it, or depending on what the card is. Now, some cards that go into your hand are weapon cards, which are like negative cards that sit in your hand that you want to try and get out of your hand and pass to other people if possible. Because when a Psycho Killer, of which there are 5 in the deck, when a Psycho Killer appears, any weapon cards you have on you, you have to place in front of you. At the end of the game, the person with the least amount of weapon cards in front of them, and Psycho Killers, wins the game because they escaped relatively scot-free. So the Purge expansion adds a new mechanic to it, where basically at some point the Purge will happen. And by the Purge, I mean the movie The Purge. The movie, you know what the Purge is, right, guys? It's basically all crime is legal. So in this version of the game, what happens is when you've got this, when the Purge happens, you flip over this card saying it's the Purge. And any of those weapon cards you can actually use on other people when the Psycho Killer comes out. So if Psycho Killer gets revealed, you can play those cards on other people now. So it's a bit more strategic because sometimes you want to keep those cards to yourself so you can play them on other people later on. But if it goes back to the regular non-Purge time and a Psycho Killer comes out, then all those weapon cards are going to be in front of you and you're going to be pretty sad. The other one was the Nightmare on Elm Street. The Nightmare on Elm Street version of Psycho Killer was really interesting because they had a whole dreaming mechanic. So you have these stimulants that you could basically have, which they were weapon cards, but they didn't go down when the Psycho Killer came out. They only went down if you had more than one stimulant. And as long as you had one stimulant in your hand, you weren't asleep. And it's important to know about being asleep in this game because if you're asleep and one of the event cards come out, which is a new thing to the Nightmare on Elm Street version of this, when that event card comes out, it only applies to people who are asleep. So it's normally a really negative thing. But if you're awake, you don't have to worry about it. It's fantastic. So yeah, out of those 2 expansions, both of them were really fun. And it was very tempting just to shuffle them all together, but we had other stuff to film. But yeah, I might do it at some point where we just put a bunch of them together and see how they work because it was really fun. And if you're at AirCon this year and I'm at AirCon, or if you're the UK Games Expo and I'm at the UK Games Expo, then I'll be bringing Psycho Killer along as well as the drinking game version of it. So you can join me for a little drink and we can enjoy playing a bit of Psycho Killer and yeah, that should be fun. Okay, so I think that was everything. No, that wasn't everything. We also played a couple of other things. So I got Will and Alex to play some Shape Invaders, which will be available for our Ultimate Badasses only. And also there is a game of Formula D, which is something, I played absolutely ages ago, played it again recently, and I was like, this is such a fun game. So we've also got a race on the alternate side of that board, where you're kind of street racers, Tokyo Drift style. So that'll be also available up once we've edited it for Ultimate Badasses in the not too distant future. And if you want to watch Ultimate Badasses, it's our membership scheme on the channel. So yeah, so if you join up with that, then you can see those videos. If you don't want to see those videos, then you don't have to join up. But yeah. So after my week of filming, I had an absolutely fantastic Sunday where I went down to the Dice Box in Leamington Spa and I met up with a couple of other 8 Instagrammers there who are content creators who most of them I've met before, or at least I've spoken to before. And we played a bunch of games there. And I'm going to go through the games that I remember we played. But before we came, somebody had said to me, "Oh, Adam, please bring Grim Inc. because I saw your live about it and it looked fantastic." So I brought Grim Inc. and we had a full 9-player game of it. And yeah, it was really fun. It was very funny. And it's one of those things where you're creating memories of the people at the table. So certain people, we now have in-jokes, which is always lovely. So we played Grim Inc. Board Game Biff showed me Long Shot. Long Shot was a really cool roll and write game where you're basically betting on horses. And you can you're basically rolling 2 dice, and then Adam, you're right. Yes, you're rolling 2 dice, and basically those. Is it 2 dice? It's 1 dice, isn't it, Adam? No, it's 2 dice. You're rolling 2 dice. One rep is a D8, which represents which horse it's kind of relating to, and the other one is how many spaces it moves. So you're betting money on these horses. You're using the number of the horse rolled to basically color off certain things on your like little sheet. And it's just a really well thought out game that I've completely butchered because I'm not feeling very well, so I can't really go into much detail. But Long Shot is definitely something I will probably pick up for the kids this year because I think it's definitely a really fun family game to play. The only other horse racing game I've played with family is the really nasty horse racing game, which destroys relationships and families, like most good games you play at Christmas. So there was Buffet Boss, or Buffist Boss, as Mashy Meeples wanted to call it, where you're stacking food on a little kind of wobbly plate. That was really fun. I really regret that John was playing with us. I don't regret because he was playing with us. He was playing with us, and yeah, we drew at the end. And once we finished, I just demolished his food stack before he got a chance to take a picture. So I felt like a bit of a douchebag for doing that. So yeah, sad times for this guy. And the last game we played, or the last game I played there was, I cannot remember the name of the game. All I know is I was calling it Fox Mountain. It might have been Kubo or Kudo. Answers below if you know what I'm talking about. There is 2 teams. You're basically, it's a trick-taking game. You're trying to get your blue or your red/orange fox to Fox Mountain. And yeah, it was just a fun game. It was just really fun, kind of bluffing game. Where you're trying to, yeah, get your fox there without helping the other team out too much, with some really fun powers in there. So you could, if you at the end of the round, everyone played their cards. You play a card that either has a blue or orange number on there, and that represents how far that kind of fox is going to move. So as you go around, you know, you're handed out these cards, and you might be on the orange team, but you only have blue cards, and you're like, oh my god, this is not going to help us get to where we need to go to. But there's some special power cards in there, like one which basically reverses all the colours of the cards. So I saw that come out where we had like all the other teams' colours coming out, and then the last person reversed it. So actually all those colours were then our team, so we could go ahead. And if you ever go 4 spaces further down the track than the other team, then they get a special bonus they can use at some point, like negating the scoring of a round. It was really good. You have 3 rounds, so once you get a Fox Mountain, that's 1 round, and once one team has been to Fox Mountain twice, you win. I do not remember the name of the game. I will try to remember and put it somewhere. But yeah, that was definitely good. I want to say Kudo, but I don't think it was called Kudo. Cujo. Not Cujo, that's about a dog. The board game for Cujo would be pretty dark. Some kid trapped in a car. So, what else to talk about? That was my time at the Dice Box in Upton Spa. Had a lovely burger there, really good ambience there, really good staff, just a fantastic time. So then I ran home. By running, I mean I actually drove home to set up a game of Uprising: Curse of the Last Emperor. Guys, if you've not seen our coverage of Curse of the Last Emperor, then please check it out. It's on the channel. It's when Jamie used to do stuff with us. So there's like 4 videos, maybe 5 videos of me, Will, and Jamie playing through an entire game of it. And man alive, Uprising: Curse of the Last Empire is just such a great 4X game. And what makes it great is it's a cooperative. So with 4X games, they take a while. These things can take, upwards of 6 hours. You're playing Twilight Imperium, you're there for the day. Aircon, I've been there in the morning, and someone's got a game of that going. By the time I leave in the evening, they're still playing it. And I leave pretty late. So, with this particular one, with a 4X, if you put so many hours in something and then your plans go awry, people can get quite annoyed about it. Spend so much time with their strategy and stuff like that, then it all gets, blown away, and they can feel like they're getting picked on. So, with Uprising: Curse of the Last Empire, it's different because it's fully cooperative. You are working together to try to defeat the forces of chaos and the forces of the Empire. And the way you win is basically have more victory points than both of those factions, which is easier said than done because every round, these guys are racking up all of those. So you've really got to be on your best. teamwork kind of, yeah, push. There are different difficulties in there, so you can actually set how easy it is for yourself to win. But yes, I played a game in my local gaming group, and we had an absolute blast. It was so much fun. It just reminded me how cool that game is. And I'm going to be filming some more of that for the channel next year. So if you'd like to see some more Uprising Against the Last Empire, especially with some of the expansions we've got, then stay tuned to the channel because we will be putting on at some point. It's such a great game. I absolutely love it. And I might even bring it to an expo with me, to a convention, and see if anybody wants to join in because it's more people need to know about it. It's just beautiful. Okay, so that was the week that was. That was my entire week then, and then yeah, now I'm feeling pretty poorly after that, if I'm honest. And I will be editing a ton of stuff over the next couple of months. So yeah, you can expect to see on the channel coming up. The next thing you see on the channel is going to be Captain's Log, but not before you see the Mass Effect board game unboxing, which should be going live about 8 o'clock tonight. If you're a member of the channel, if you're an Ultimate Badass, it's already available for you. But everyone else, if you wait till about 8 PM, you will see a Mass Effect board game unboxing. Initial thoughts show some promise after reading the rulebook, but at the same time, it's not the game I want it to be, which is Rogue Angels, because Rogue Angels is a huge collaborative sci-fi saga, and this one is, I mean, Rogue Angels is more kind of like Gloomhaven in terms of depth. Mass Effect, the board game, is more Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. Not even that. It's a bit more simple, basically. So we'll see. We'll see. It might be fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to painting the minis for it. But yeah, so on the channel, you can expect to see the Mass Effect video now if you're an Ultimate Badass, or about 8 PM if you're not. We will also be having Captain's Log. That's the next video that should be up on the channel, which is a full gameplay of the entire game we played, Alex and I, before we did our review. So you can see what mistakes we made, and I'm communicating with the guy who made the game. Every time I come to a point in the video, I'm like, oh, we queried this at this point. What actually happened? So hopefully I'll have enough corrections in there, so anyone playing the game will have it, or watching it to understand if they want to back the new game, will understand whether that's something for them, and you know, the gameplay should help them learn how to play, or not to play in some cases. So we've got that coming up. Chronicles of Dronagor, which I cannot emphasize how much I've enjoyed playing that, and I'm excited to get that to the channel. That is probably going to be the next series you see on the channel. Solo series anyway. So that'll be coming up in December. And also in December, you can expect to see, once it arrives, we don't have a advent calendar escape room this year. Will couldn't do it this year, so instead we've got the Mantic board game advent calendar, which is, yeah, they did Barroom Brawl last year, and this year they've got another one, which is like a sci-fi one, which we're doing that one. So you can join me every day for December, where I'll be unboxing that, and then hopefully near the end of December, I'll do a gameplay video of that, so we can see whether that was actually worth my time and effort and energy, or if it was a terrible idea. So yeah, so that's what you expect this half of the year. Next year, got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Maladin is something we're definitely going to be prioritising getting on the channel. Now, after a little suggestion in here, a little thinking, Folklore of the Affliction, I think, is definitely going to be back on that list, because it's fantastic. It really is. But we've got so many different games that we just really want to show you guys. So just stay tuned to the channel, and hopefully we'll be churning out lots of videos for you guys to consume and enjoy. We will be returning to Shadows of Brimstone. Drink them if you haven't, because it's my favourite game. Sure, I play it wrong, but man, I enjoy playing it wrong. I enjoy playing it. So I filmed all of the Trudarian Strike Team missions up to, I think, mission 6 maybe. I've got another 2 missions left, and I failed the last mission. So yeah, I was also making quite a few mistakes, and I kind of took it, no, I didn't take it personally, but I kind of was very disappointed in myself for how many mistakes I kept making. So I just decided I'm going to stop filming that, sit back, re-look at the rules, relearn it, and then come back to the channel with a crisper version of the Trudarian Strike Team. So early next year, hopefully, we'll be getting the Trudarian Strike Team out there for you guys to carry on watching. But we will be having at some point, once it fulfills, so a couple of years away probably, the Ferro Pledge for yeah, the Lost Ruins of Arnak. I can't remember what it's called. It's not that. But yeah, it's kind of like a. If you imagine the Mummy, they're doing a Shadows of Brimstone Mummy kind of game. So yeah, so I'll be doing all that once it comes out. But I don't even know it comes out next year. We do have some exciting games coming on the channel as well. We're waiting on Mass Effect, the Metal Gear Solid War game, which should be fulfilling around January, February. We're waiting on Hunters 1492 as well. And yeah, Kickstarter at the moment's got some really fun things in GameFound, and I'm trying to not look at these things, but man, there's some tempting stuff. The number one tempting thing for me is Sea Beasts. It is a cooperative kind of Viking crawl where you're going through this with this longboat across this little campaign journey and fighting off sea monsters. Don't take my word for it, guys. Go and check out the Kickstarter, Sea Beasts. The base pledge is about £39, not including postage. It's about £39, and you get a ton of game for that. But then the next one up, I think, is about £80 or something, and it's got some really deluxe components in there. And then you go the full-in pledge, which is around 100 and something, and it looks amazing. So I'm kind of on the edge of it because I'm like, well, I'd like to play the game, but then I'd really like to get all the deluxe components because I'd really be disappointed I didn't get those. But yeah, Sea Beast, check it out. Not if you've got a hole in your pocket, sorry, money in your pocket burning a hole. Next, I want to talk about is Teneris Adventures. This is one I'm definitely want to be getting. Teneris Adventures is is it an Adventures or Expedition? Man, I'm telling these games, I don't even know what they're called. Like I say, I've had the flu, so I'm not quite with it. There is one on GameFound at the moment, which is Teneris Adventures. It's a pirate-themed one, and it's called Central Sea. I know it's got that in the title. And you're basically going through a game book. So I really enjoy game books. The new Mass Effect game, they've got this where they took it from loads of other games. Plaid Hats did this before anyone else, I think. Like Stuff Fables did it. I think Mice and Mystics maybe did as well. I've never played Mice and Mystics, so I don't know. That might be Tiles, but essentially you've got a book which has a map on one side, and then the kind of and you're going to be moving your miniatures around on that, and then you've got the kind of plot on the other side and what the objectives are. They did that in Stalingrad Z and the Cats of Mons and Michael. It's a really cool format. I think it's fantastic because it takes away all the setup. Gloomhaven, I absolutely hated setting that thing up because it took like 40 minutes to set the game up sometimes, and you always had to set it up before people came around the house, and then you'd have to put it away, and it's just such a faff. Whereas Jaws of the Lion, you open the book, it's done, the setting's all done. So I really enjoy those kind of games where you've got those game books in there. And there's Teneris Adventures, Expeditions, Central Sea. You're a pirate, it's a pirate-themed adventure, and you're going through a book of adventures. It looks great. So yeah, that's definitely one I'll be picking up because it just looks so cool. Lands of Evershade. Lands of Evershade, Awakened Realms. And Awakened Realms are the poster child of GameFound. I mean, they make GameFound, but they make so many fun games and just beautiful games. And two of my favourite games, Lords of Hellas and Nemesis, made by Awakened Realms. So good. As is this War of Mine, but the subject matter is too bleak to get at the table. I always feel sick playing it. But yeah, over the years, they've been making some fantastic, absolutely beautifully crafted games. They don't always land, but for the most part, they land. So, for instance, the Stalker board game, there's a late pledge for that available if you want to pick that up. That looks pretty great. And that's another one where they've got a standard pledge, which just has standees, and then they have a version where you can actually spend more money to get miniatures and all the other kind of components you might want to get for it. So for me, as somebody who's trying to budget, like when I'm getting these kind of things now, I'm thinking, well, that's quite expensive. I would probably be looking at getting the cheapo versions just so I could play the game and not have to like miss out on it. Because they get you with the FOMO. They get you with the FOMO. I would not mind having a game with just standees over one with beautifully crafted minis any day of the week. Minis always look better, but if you can get some acrylic tokens, acrylic standees, or just standees, they can look as good as miniatures now. They work fine. They work fine, and you know it works for gameplay. You don't have to paint everything up, which is fantastic. So yeah, so they've got Stalkers on there, Grim Coven is on there, which is like a boss battler. I don't have any boss battlers, and that looks pretty cool. But yeah, they have this Lands of Evershade up there, which is supposed to be a 1 to 5 player RPG hybrid, and it's just doing so well. It just is doing it amazingly well. But I don't think I'll get it because I've already got so many like narrative adventure games that I've not completed. It just feels like before I get something like that, I need to have clocked some other stuff. So next year I've got to challenge myself to basically play through as many games as possible and get rid of them, and then get new games into play. But yeah, so Lands of Evershade, it looks very good, but yeah, the FOMO's not getting me. It's not getting me, guys. Anyway, that's about it because I feel like Death warmed up at the moment. Thanks so much for tuning in. For anyone who tuned into the live stream, guys, it was a bit off the cuff because, like I say, I wasn't feeling very well. I'm still not feeling very well. I'm starting to seize up here. Yeah, I'm sorry if I've been down here for most of the actual stream. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's been watching the content recently. Really appreciate everything around the Maladum content. Lots of comments on there and rules corrections, which really helped me going forward. The last thing I want to do is go into, whenever I film stuff, I want to try and get it as accurate as possible. There's nothing worse than, you know, you filming something and you screwing up the whole rules. So yeah, and that's happened before. So I am trying to get better with presenting stuff, and generally I hope the channel is looking better these days. I feel like I'm trying to be a bit more professional about stuff, or at least semi-professional. Anyway, that's enough about semis. I've been there, very excitable Adam. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, and you'll see some fun content this year. Like I say, the latter half of this year, you can expect to see at 8 o'clock tonight, Mass Effect unboxing. There's going to be a couple more unboxings this year, depending on what we've added together. Basically, everything we've currently got for Chronicles of Dronagor, that's going to be up. We've got some other fun games as well, which will be up. You can expect to see some videos of Chronicles of Dronagor, definitely December. I'm going to basically be blasting those guys out. And in December as well, the Mantic board game advent calendar is going to be opened by yours truly. So you can tune in and see what that's like. And it's something you want to pick up for next year. Like I say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You help us out by doing that. And if you want to become an Ultimate Badass to get some exclusive videos and videos before anybody else, then yeah, please join up as a member, and you give £2 a month to help me grow the channel and keep the lights on, and buy things like paint and stuff like that. It's a very small, you know, I could go for a huge membership thing, but I'm not really offering much, and I feel cheeky asking for it. So yeah, so £2 a month, it helps me buy paint so I can paint the miniatures up to look half decent. Oh, and just one other thing, after we finished playing Undaunted 2200 with Jack, the next game that me and him, or him and I, are tackling is Oathsworn into the Deep Wood. So that's going to be a thing we're doing all next year. So yeah, keep an eye out for that if you want to see Oathsworn. That is our next game that I'll be doing with Jack. And like I say, I'm going to be trying to pick some different individuals and filming stuff with those individuals, and maybe doing a series with that particular person. So maybe I'll get Zoe back on and we can carry on with Cthulhu Death May Die. Because yeah, I really enjoyed playing that at Outrider Games. So you might see some more of that. You might see some more guests on the channel, but for the most part it's just me being the ever excitable Adam. And until next time, guys, stay safe as I try to close this off with it's always over the lens, it looks so unprofessional. Stay safe, guys, or die rolling. Boop.